Since my kids died, I really don't know where I fit in anymore. I don't feel comfortable in any social setting. Welcome to the Grieving Mom's Guide to Life. My name is Susan Fahidi, and I am a grieving mom. I am also a mindfulness life coach and a grief advocate. So, something that I've heard from a lot of grieving parents, and I've also experienced myself, is where do you fit in? After your children died, where do you fit in? Social settings are very difficult. Nobody seems to understand us. It's really hard to relate to people and their experiences, and they certainly cannot relate to us and our experiences as bereaved parents. It's been 6.5 years since my son Brandon died, and we're coming up on 4 years since my daughter Bethany died. And during that time I've had lots of opportunities to be in social settings with varying groups of people, from family to close friends to just people that I know socially, acquaintances, work settings, work functions, weddings, a whole bunch of different social experiences. And it's really difficult for me to relate to other people anymore, and I don't know how to change that. I don't know if I should be changing that. It's really hard. How do you relate to people on a one-on-one basis? And I guess the people that would relate to us the best are fellow bereaved parents. But we're not the best in social settings anymore. It's hard to have fun. You feel guilty. Um, you feel like you shouldn't be having fun because your kids aren't here and they can't have fun, so you shouldn't have fun. It's a real challenging situation. There's so much anxiety when you're facing other people and being in those social settings that it's hard to control those emotions, and it's hard to do anything but just want to run away and back into the seclusion of our homes. Don't we like to isolate ourselves when we're grieving? I mean, it's more comfortable. It feels safer. You're being like in a cocoon in your familiar surroundings. Maybe you just want to go and curl up in your bed and hide under your blankets. There are times when I'm wanting to do that too. As a matter of fact, I want to do that right now. This video, for some reason, is very difficult for me to even talk about. I'm having anxiety and tightness in my chest, and my heartbeat is racing, and I feel like I'm talking really fast, and I feel like my breathing has gotten quite quicker, and my thoughts aren't coming as naturally as I would like them to. And it's just talking about being in a social setting. It's not actually being in one. And then there's conversations that people are going to have. That causes a lot of anxiety, because people are going to have conversations. They're going to have conversations about, and they're going to talk about life and children and family and work settings and the things that they do. And how do you talk about that? And how do you handle it when you're in a setting with women, and women naturally talk about their experiences, with childbirth or with their children at a very young age. And if they're talking about childbirth, and you've had a stillbirth or you've had a miscarriage, you're going to feel a lot of pain and discomfort in that situation. I would imagine I have not had a miscarriage or a stillborn baby or lost a child in infancy, but it's child loss, and I would not feel comfortable in that setting. As a matter of fact, I've been in a social setting where all the women in the room were talking about their childbirth experiences, and I had to get up and walk away. I had to leave the room because it was so hard for me. And my children died when they were 27 and 31, and that was very, very difficult for me. And I couldn't sit there any longer. I couldn't talk about, in that kind of setting, I did not feel safe talking about what my childbirth experiences were like of my deceased children. And they all knew. I think maybe one of them did not know, um, but all of these women knew me, and they all knew that I had suffered child loss experience, and and they still just, I wasn't even a thought um, in the progression of that conversation. And then when you're in different kinds of social settings and you're meeting new people, and they ask that natural question, how many kids do you have? Do you have children? How many do you have? And you kind of take a breath in, and I think as bereaved parents, that is one of the questions, probably the number one question that we try to prepare for, because we know it's coming. And how do you answer that? Well, I answer it in a way that is probably off-putting to a lot of people, because my response is, I have 3 children, but 2 of them are deceased. And, this is like, oh, I'm terribly sorry about your loss, or, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And then they move on and they don't want to talk to me anymore. But what do I say? What do I say? Because, I could say, oh, I have 3 kids. I have a daughter and 2 sons. And then their next question might be, oh, well, how old are they? Well, how old are they? My son died 6 years ago at 27. He'd be 35 this year. So he'd be 34. My daughter would be 35. Do I say, oh, they're 35, 34, and 28? Like, how do you answer that? How do you answer that without saying, well, they're no longer here? And then you get that same response. It's like, oh, well, my son died when he was 27 and my daughter died when she was 31. And it's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And now I'm going to move on to the next person because I don't want to talk to you anymore. Or do you answer it do you lie and you just say, oh, my daughter's 35, my son is 34, and my youngest son is 28. But then it goes on to the next question, which, that's the evolution of conversation. And it's like, oh, well, is your daughter married? Are your kids married? And, well, do I then again? Like, the progression, each answer is a natural progression into the next question, is the ebb and flow of conversation between humans. And eventually, as a bereaved parent, you're either going to have to lie, which I don't believe in, or you're going to have to come out with the uncomfortable truth, and then people don't want to talk to you anymore. And they don't want to talk to you anymore because you are now uncomfortable in a social setting, which you've made them uncomfortable in a social setting, but you've been uncomfortable since the moment you decided that you were going to go and put yourself in that social setting. And even when you know people, if you know everybody in the room, if you haven't seen people in a while, you get that question of, how you doing? Hey, I've been thinking about you a lot, and I'm really wondering how you're doing. Do you tell the truth? I'm really not doing very well. I'm struggling a lot. Or do you lie? Yeah, things are pretty good. I'm putting my life together, and the rest of the kids are great, and we're going on a vacation this year, or I really need a vacation, or whatever the social banalities are. Like, how do you answer that question? I don't like putting a mask on. I actually refuse to put the mask on, and it is so off-putting to so many people. And I answer the truth. I'm actually not doing okay. And You know, you see it on social media all the time. If you're not doing okay, let me know, because I'd rather you tell me you're not doing okay than hear about it after something bad has happened. Well, I'm not doing okay. And I tell people that I'm not doing okay. It's just kind of left there. You know, there are people that really do truly care about me, and it's a very, very small amount of people, and they will listen to why I'm not okay, and you know, they try to give me comfort, and those people I love and I appreciate so much. But when you're in a social setting, um, it's awkward, it's uncomfortable, it's awkward and uncomfortable and anxiety filled for the bereaved parent, and then it becomes socially awkward for the people that you're interacting with and socializing with, and they no longer want to socialize with you. And is that okay? Is that okay that they no longer want to socialize with you? Um, I think for some people it probably is okay. I've cut out a lot of people in my life, um, that were just, you know, that were just social acquaintances, that they weren't close to me, and you can see it on their faces that they don't want to handle your grief, or they don't know how to handle your grief, and I don't have the capacity to deal with that. I don't have emotional capacity. I don't have mental capacity, and I can't I can't um, I really can't do it. I really just can't do it. So we've moved on, and that's okay. So what do you do? What do you do? You're a bereaved parent. You don't socially fit in. So do you stay home? Do you not go? What do you do? Let me know what you do. Drop some comments. You know, let's have a conversation about it. I'd really like to hear what you guys do, how you might handle a social situation, or what your experiences are in social situations, because we can learn from each other. You know, we can learn how to handle a situation maybe differently than what we've been doing before, and approach it in a little bit different way. But honestly, for me, I'm not putting on a mask any longer. I'm tired of my grief. I'm tired I'm tired of hiding my grief. I've lost 2 children, and I don't feel like I should be expected to change to accommodate the world. I feel like the world should be able to accept and accommodate me, because my emotional capacity, my mental capacity, my social capacity is much, much smaller and tighter than what I ever was like before I became a bereaved mom, before I became a bereaved mom times two, because it just compounded itself um, after my daughter died, 2.5 years after my son died. That was just, it was just too much. If you feel like you got some benefit from this video, please consider subscribing and hitting the like button. Give me a good old thumbs up, and leave some comments. Let's have that conversation. Let's talk about how we all handle social situations. So that's it for this video. We'll see you on the next one, and love you guys.